The sadness began in the early days of her childhood, when Susan was born with health complications due to lack of oxygen during childbirth. Doctors told Bridget and Patrick that she would probably never live a normal life, that she would have difficulty learning and communicating. But her parents never gave up. Bridget, a strong Irish woman with prematurely gray hair from worry, devoted her life to caring for Susan, the youngest of 9 children. Patrick, a miner and World War II veteran, was strict but always gentle with her, often sitting by the fire, telling stories of his days in the field, stories that Susan listened to with wide-eyed admiration. They were the only ones who never saw her as different, even when the neighborhood kids called her Susie Simple and laughed at her awkward walk and lisp. Patrick's death in 1999 was the first blow. Susan, then 38, still lived with her parents in the small house in Blackburn, where she cared for them as a way of repaying them for the years of sacrifice they had made for her. She remembers clearly that day, when she returned from church and found him lying still in his old armchair, his eyes closed as if dreaming of a distant place. She knelt beside him, held his hand and cried, not just because of the loss, but because she knew he had gone without hearing her say thank you. She told her sister Jerry that she wished she had sung to her father more, that she had not shown him enough love while he was alive. Patrick's death left a huge void in the house, but Bridget was there, Susan's last support, a constant reminder that she had a special voice, a gift from God that helped her through all her difficulties. But the real sadness came in 2007, when Bridget died at the age of 91 after a long battle with old age. Susan, then 46, had spent nearly a decade caring for her mother after her father's death, turning down invitations to perform at church and local events to be with her. She remembers the final moments, sitting by her mother's hospital bed, holding her mother's hand and singing Amazing Grace in a trembling voice. Bridget smiled weakly, whispered that she was proud of her daughter, and then closed her eyes forever. Susan collapsed. She could not accept that her mother, who had always believed in her when the rest of the world had turned against her, was gone. She returned to the empty house in Blackburn, once filled with the laughter of her parents, and cried for hours, feeling as if she had lost her whole world. The months that followed were the darkest of Susan's life. She refused to eat, locked herself in her room, living only on memories of her parents. She used to sit at the family's old piano, play her mother's favorite tunes, and burst into tears when she realized that no one was clapping for her. It was not just the loss of her 2 closest loved ones, but also the deep sense of loneliness she felt as she faced life alone, without her parents. She said in a 2010 interview that she felt like a bird with broken wings after her mother died, and that sadness has followed her through all her subsequent successes, like a dark shadow silently reminding her of what she had lost. Susan Boyle's career has been a long and unexpected story, from her obscure days in Blackburn to her rise to global prominence. She began singing as a child, often performing in her local church, where her clear soprano voice echoed off the old stone walls. But life has not been easy for her. Because of her learning and social difficulties, she never thought she could turn her passion into a career. She worked odd jobs, from helping in the church kitchen to working at a grocery store, and spent her free time taking care of her parents. She sang in local competitions, but was always rejected because of her plain appearance and awkward mannerisms, which she accepted as part of life. Everything changed in 2009, when Susan, aged 47, decided to enter Britain's Got Talent. She took to the stage in a shabby dress, messy hair, and a shy smile, which had the audience and judges laughing before she could even open her mouth. But when she sang I Dreamed a Dream from the musical Les Misérables, the room fell silent, then exploded with applause. Her voice, powerful, emotional, and full of life, won over millions around the world through a viral YouTube video. She didn't win the competition. finishing second to dance group Diversity. But the performance opened the door to a career she never dreamed of. Her debut album, I Dreamed a Dream, released at the end of 2009, became the year's best-selling album in the UK, with more than 10 million copies sold worldwide, catapulting her from relative obscurity to international stardom. Success followed success in the years that followed. Susan released a series of hit albums including The Gift, 2010, Someone to Watch Over Me, 2011, and Standing Ovation, 2012, each of which topped the Billboard and UK albums charts. She performed at prestigious venues such as the Royal Albert Hall, toured the US, Europe, and Asia, and even sang for Queen Elizabeth II at a royal event in 2012. Her voice not only brought her fame, but also inspired millions of people who saw in her an ordinary person who overcame adversity to shine. She received numerous awards, from the World Music Award for Best New Artist in 2010 to an honorary degree from the University of Edinburgh in 2013, recognizing her contribution to music and society. But Susan's career was not always so bright. Soon after Britain's Got Talent, the pressure of sudden fame took its toll on her. She was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome in 2013, a condition that explained the communication difficulties she had had since childhood, but also left her vulnerable to media scrutiny. In 2009, after losing the competition, she was hospitalized for exhaustion and depression, an experience that left her crying in her hospital room at night, wondering if she had the strength to continue. She thought the spotlight would fade quickly, that audiences would forget her as they had mocked her before she sang. Another major setback came in 2015 when she invested in a self-produced musical called Finding Home, based on her own life. She poured her heart and a large portion of her money into the project, hoping to tell her story through music and theater. But the musical flopped, criticized for being lacking depth and failing to attract audiences. She recalls sitting in an empty theater, looking at the empty seats and crying. She had thought that with her fame and experience, she could make a difference, but reality made her doubt her abilities. She cried not only because of the financial failure, but because she felt she had disappointed her mother, who had always believed she could do anything. Susan did not give up, however. She returned with her 2016 album, A Wonderful World, once again winning over audiences with her soulful voice. She continued to perform, despite her declining health at age 60, and participated in America's Got Talent, The Champions in 2019, where she received a standing ovation from the audience despite not winning. Those efforts, although sometimes leaving her in tears from exhaustion or pressure, are a testament to her indomitable spirit. She once told her manager that she did not need to be the brightest star, but just wanted to sing until no one was listening anymore. Susan Boyle has always had great aspirations, achievements that she has worked hard to achieve, even though at age 64 she could have retired at the peak of her fame. One of her biggest goals is to preserve the musical legacy she has built, not only for herself, but for those who were once looked down upon like her. She said in a 2020 interview that she wanted her voice to be an inspiration to those who felt they weren't good enough, that she wanted to prove that dreams have no limits. To achieve this, she participates in charity events, sings for free at community centers, and even sponsors music scholarships for disadvantaged children in Scotland. In addition, she aspires to build a music center in her hometown of Blackburn to support young talents who don't have the means to pursue their passion. She began donating money from her album royalties in 2012, and by 2025, the project is nearly complete, called Boyle Music Haven. She dreams that one day singers from this center will step onto the big stage, carrying her spirit and continuing to spread music everywhere. She once sat alone in her office, looking at the design of the center and shedding tears. Not because she was tired, but because she felt like she was repaying her parents, repaying them for the days when they believed in her voice when no one else would. Another goal of Susan's is to organize a thank you concert before she retires, scheduled for 2026, when she turns 65. She wants this concert to be more than just a farewell, but a celebration of her journey from an unknown woman to a global icon. She spends hours every day preparing, choosing songs, rehearsing with the band, hoping to bring a night of music that the audience will always hold in their hearts. She once cried when thinking about the moment she stepped on stage for the last time. Not because she was sad, but because she knew that it would be her way of saying thank you to her mother, to her father, and to those who gave her the opportunity to shine. This is not only a personal achievement, but also a way for her to turn sadness and failures into a brilliant mark in her life. In love and marriage, Susan Boyle is a woman who lives with an open heart, but has never found a true resting place. She grew up in a large family, where the love of her parents was the only source of warmth in the difficult days. But when she was young, she did not have many opportunities to love. Her plain appearance, shy personality, and communication difficulties often made her isolated by her